Good morning and welcome to Writers Fix Problems. This is Blaine Pardoe, New York Times bestselling author, and I'm here always interviewing fascinating authors. We're going to go off in a different realm this time. We're going to be talking about comic books and the indie comic scene a little bit. A little bit of background, as everybody knows, we always open with a review of the comic, and we're going to be talking today about the Mythicals. And we're talking with Hojo, who's the author. Hojo, welcome to the show.
How are you doing?
And as you guys know, I always try to open with a review of the material we're going to be talking about. And it's a non-spoiler review. I'm not going to give it away. But I really did enjoy this, and I had a good time with it. Now, I've been reading comics most of my life. I still remember as a kid being angry when the price went up from 12 cents to 15 cents. Okay, that's how old I am, okay? I've seen the Silver Age, the Golden Age, the New Age, and whatever freaking age we're in right now. I don't even know. According to Razor Fist, we're in the Iron Age. And I like that because it's got a good feel to it. I floated between DC and Marvel and courted selective readings from many independents that are out there. Now, I'll clarify what I am as a comic book reader. I'm a fan. I'm not a collector. I view comics for what they are. They're a form of entertainment. I don't put mine away in sealed backer boards, but I read them over and over again because that's what comics are meant to be. And I know a lot of guys out there collect and store these things and see them as an investment. To me, they're not an investment. They're a form of entertainment. Now, the last few years have turned the comic industry into a woke fest of forced political agendas and, in many cases, outright hatred of the very fans that support the industry. Marvel and DC have decided that their mostly male reader base was somehow the enemy. Heroes had to be stripped of their masculinity or, like the Punisher, kicked to the streets as a failure. These were replaced by a pantheon of characters that were solely defined by their sexual preferences, their identity politics, rather than the true values that they stood for. The anti-conservative rhetoric that has been woven into storylines has become an onslaught. And for the first time in decades, I let all of my comic book subscriptions lapse for DC and Marvel. And it's kind of a shame that we've reached this point. But like many readers, I yearned for fantastic characters that I could have some sort of identity with. I wanted storytelling that wasn't laced with political agenda or outright propaganda. I don't care what the sexual proclivities of characters are. All I want is good old-fashioned good guys and bad guys fighting each other. So I stumbled into the indie comic scene, kind of drunkenly at times, but I stumbled into it. I supported Eric July's ISOM with zero regrets. I loved it. I backed Door Knockers, which is done by my friend Scott, who is one of the founders of this channel. And it's incredible and it's inspiring. It's absolutely stunning visuals. So when I saw the ad on Twitter for the Mythicals, I backed it. I didn't spend much time delving into what it was going to be about. I wanted the experience of just opening the comic without knowing any of the background and totally enjoying it. It was a good move on my part. For me, a good comic book has to have several key elements to make it a success. First, I have to be able to identify or be sympathetic with the characters in some way. Second, the art has to pop without the words. So if you stripped out all the words, can I look at this and is the story kind of compelling? The writing has to be crisp or at least quasi-realistic, especially in terms of the conversations that are in there. And number four, I don't want any of the political BS. Just give me a really good story. Fifth, a comic book has to leave me wanting for more. I have to end a comic book and go, when's the next issue coming? Because I need to read what happens next. On these fronts, the Mythicals delivers. Visually, it harkens back to the heydays of the 1990s. This story has a whole Harry Dresden vibe to it with even a hint of the X-Files. The lead character, Nancy, is forced into coping with situations and circumstances that she doesn't fully comprehend, which is something we can all identify with because at some point we've all been in that situation, although hers is a little bit stranger than anything we've ever had to deal with. The writing is solid. The characters were introduced slowly, leaving me wanting for more. And the end of the comic, well, there's a twist, pun intended, that I think really caught me off guard, and made me want to order issue 2 right off the bat. So, with that in mind, I'd like to welcome Hojo to the show, and we're going to talk about the Mythicals.
All right.
What'd you think? Was the review fair?
It was good. I liked it.
I
I
loved
was
it.
clenching a little bit there.
Pardon?
I was clenching a little bit at first. Like, oh, okay.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I was in the army and I have a wife. Criticism just rolls off my back.
I loved it. You did a really good job of this, because I still, after the first issue, don't know these characters in depth. I think I know where some of this is going,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to bet I'm wrong, because I think as a storyteller, you're not going to make it just cut and dry for me, and I'm pretty
No.
pleased with that. So, yeah, where did you get the inspiration for this comic?
No, when I was in the army, I was overseas. It's about 2005, 6. We were in Samara in Iraq, and we're out on patrol. And I don't know. I guess just popped in my head. I was like, what if we could just kick down the doors like a bunch of monsters, like a vampire and stuff, and go in here? It's almost like it could be like a SWAT team, just like but with monsters or something. Then I started, refining it, and I came up. Nancy didn't exist at this point. The guy on the cover with the guns, and in the trailer, he was the lead. And in this book, he still thinks he's the lead. But so it evolved, and I was talking one day with another soldier, and then somebody overheard it. It was like, "Man, you read comics?" And because that guy didn't know what you were talking about. I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "Well, I draw, man. I know a guy at Cross Gen Comics, which is it was like a, I wouldn't say small. It was a pretty big independent publisher in the '90s. I had a lot of their titles in early 2000s. But he was like, well, I know somebody there. We can get at least somebody to look at it instead of throwing it away. I was like, all right. So we got together. Had a bad dream one night, and that's where the villain came from. The bare bones of that. And it was off to the races, man. We got together. We did about 5 sample pages and character designs and all this stuff. And it's changed a quite good bit since then. But when we got back, they were gone. They were out of business. Like they had just gone belly up maybe 6 months before. So he's like, we can always submit to Image. And I'm like, okay, dude, see ya. I'm out of the army, 2008-ish. Like Barack Obama gets elected president. Comics start to reflect culture and politics and music and all that pop culture. They're all downwind from each other. You know how it works. And quality went downhill. I'm like, Disney bought Marvel. That changed everything.
Oh, yeah.
Starting to, I wouldn't say inject, but at first it was subtle. Like I noticed Eric Larson did a comic book where it's Savage Dragons punching George Bush. And it says Bushwhacked at it. I'm like, So, that's my part of my love-hate relationship with comics. So, flash forward 2009, 2012, comics got really bad, dude. Like, I'm talking Tumblr art.
Yeah.
And I stumbled across the internet one day looking at my terrible sports team about 2 years ago now. And there it was, Ethan Van Sciver trending. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I came home from a deployment and found Green Lantern Rebirth #1, which is a gem back then for DC. Pretty much saved their company.
Yeah.
Until they didn't like who was saving them. So I was like, ooh, what's this? And Comicsgate, ooh, what's all this? I'm like, it used to be my job to kind of like spot liars and propaganda and all that stuff for a living. And I go to Wikipedia, that's my litmus test. As soon as I read a Wikipedia article, I'm like, okay, so what's really going on? These people are doing it themselves. They're not beholden to publishers. They don't have to be told, you have to do this. I want you to put this on this panel. They don't need them anymore. And that's why they hate it so much, because they're irrelevant now and they don't even know it. Like they have
No.
dropped the ball so completely. It's like I got into an argument yesterday where this guy, or maybe it was today, kept saying that I was like, show the numbers. And he was like, well, here's a percentage, a pie chart. I'm like, no, show the numbers of what they've sold. Because I was at my first comic book signing last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, they had literally stacks like this of copies Diamond had forced on people in all these shops. It was in the 10-cent comic book day thing. And I showed him a picture where they're all spread out like a deck of cards. I was like, so where are the sales figures on this? Block. Doesn't
Yeah.
want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah. It's gotten to be a kind of a wasteland out there, except for guys like you. Okay. You, Scott, Razorfist, Eric, all these guys that are out there doing this have kind of planted a flag and said, you know what, we're just going to do what everybody wants, which is good old fashioned storytelling.
That's it. The story, not a message, a story.
Yeah, and this was solid stuff. I wasn't disappointed at all. I
Oh, good.
absolutely loved it, and some of the artwork was downright frightening. I mean, it was well done. It was
Yeah.
crisp. It's the style I like. Which
Horror is hard to pull off in a comic, especially I can't just do a straight horror comic because it's too much of a niche. I have to kind of combine it with that superhero element. But back in the 50s, before the Comics Code, horror comics, they ran the show, man.
oh
Like
yeah.
EC was a powerhouse.
Well, even when I was, in high school, I was getting Vampirella,
Mm,
eerie, creepy, all,
yeah.
all those large pulpy comics. And yeah, there was some salacious stuff in them, but soft porn for kids basically.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, the stories
So
were
was Wonder Woman.
fantastic. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was.
It was almost a little, like, I wouldn't say soft porn. It was almost like a little medium porn. But,
Well, the whole thing of her being tied up
oh, he
rendered
was a
her
masochist, man.
powerless, and
Yeah,
yeah,
he
that
was a,
was that was pure bondage
yeah,
crap.
yeah. Mm,
But you did it, and you didn't do it with what I would call the traditional cape and cloak heroes. This
yeah.
is not that thing,
No, no,
which
no.
is kind of cool, because I think a lot of people get sucked into that too, which is, well, it's got to be, comics need to be about these sweeping things. This kind of goes back to some of the old werewolf, some of
Mm,
that darker stuff that we used to see out of Marvel even
yeah,
back in the
yeah.
day.
I mean, Tomb of Dracula was a great title.
Yeah. Those were great comics. So, who's your inspiration in terms of the comic industry right now?
Like storytelling, I mean, Chris Claremont. He should be really at the top of everyone's list. I like John. I love John Byrne. I'm a big Peter David fan.
Okay.
Because he can. I feel like he can write a team book like no other. Like you could take, like you were talking about, you could take the word balloons away and follow the art and know what's going on with the story. Well, with him, sometimes you could take the art away and just read the word balloons and tell who's saying it. And
Well,
I
let
did
me
that
ask.
with this.
I mean, that's great because to me, these guys, you're talking about icons on the industry, and a lot of them have been kind of shuffled to the sidelines at this point.
Yeah, and Frank Miller tells a great tale from time to time. Not like
I
us.
like your wording there, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of 300. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a history buff, and it's not great historically. It's very inaccurate, woefully inaccurate. But I mean, you just have to be able to tell a story. That's what keeps people coming back, or you're just not. And that's why they keep doing number one issues all the time to try to generate that interest. Like I've read so many Hulk number ones over the past 5 6 years, it's terrible. I just bought the new one. It's not great. They
You
tried to
know,
turn that into a horror story, and that is not working for me.
the only woke one that I read that I actually enjoyed the story of was when they had Jane Foster being Thor. I read that arc, and it was actually well done because it
Is
was one of
Jason
the.
Aaron?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the story arc was okay. I enjoyed it. What I didn't enjoy though was the art. The art was not good. It was thick lined, no detail in some of
Mm,
the issues. It was like, okay, you've got a decent story here, and I'm willing to go along for the ride, but that was it. The
yep.
art didn't support the story, and
No,
just as important.
that was hard, to find somebody at with my budget, to find somebody that could match the story. Like I see it a certain way, and a lot of the stuff I was seeing is like, I can't do that. I'm not going to sacrifice quality to, even if the story is like awesome, to a comic reader, it's symbiotic. They have to match. They have to blend well. They have to do that, or else you're just left. It's not a comic book. It's nothing I want to read.
Right. Well, what have you learned going through the crowdfunding experience? Because a lot of people I think out there have good ideas. I've been approached by people all the time going, I got an idea for a comic book. I'm hoping to crowdfund it. If you could share some lessons for folks, I'm sure they would be appreciative because it's not like they're competition. It's kind of like you guys are supporting each other.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. I don't see anyone as competition unless they're it's the same kind of book or they're trying to steal my name. But the main thing is promotion is key, build up is key, networking is key. It's a grind. It's your first day is your best day, and as be patient. Don't get discouraged. As a writer, my first thing is get an editor. Um, as an experienced writer, I mean, you know all of this, but build up hype is key. Like promotion is, and all of that stuff in marketing is not. It's a skill to be learned. It's not innate. Yeah, people are good at it. It's almost like saying what they talk about, like athletes have God-given talents. Well, if you don't nurture and develop that talent, work at it, it's not gonna last. It's not gonna be that. It's not. If you don't have the wherewithal when it comes to all that, you're not gonna last. You
Well,
have to get out there, get in the chats, get into book shows. YouTube is your number one outlet right now. Twitter is suppressing the algorithm or the links with some kind of algorithm to where you're not getting seen as much if you have a link in your post. So and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
well, it was interesting. You offered a lot of what I would call incentives,
Yeah,
stuff. Does
some
that
stretch
really
goals and
help?
stuff like that.
Does that really
I
help
think
with?
so.
Okay.
I think I sold the majority of my initial like maybe 2 3 weeks on the trailer alone because I saw everything was getting a little stale and generic. I was like, basically, I watched about 10 trailers in a row that said, in a world where dot 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 dot, and I was like, man. One day I just looked up from my desk and I said, "Oh my God, will you shut up?" And that was the birth of my trailer, because that's how he interrupts the narrator. It just you have to be able to look around and read the room, and don't be afraid to make adjustments on the fly. Like, oh, this isn't working. Well, then stop doing it.
Well, for me, it was great because, like I said, I picked this up. If you guys haven't seen the artwork for it at the beginning of this, I mean, this is stunning stuff. And, you know, this is the kind of story I like because I'm now forced to buy your next issue.
I know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Because I don't
All
know
right. I'm sorry.
everything.
I
And,
know.
and
That's
I
the
like
thing.
it.
Like, I'm like that too. I have to know. Even if I start watching a terrible TV show, like for a season, I'm like, after about 4 or 5, I'm so invested. I'm like, I don't like it, but I do want to see where it goes. I have to know. I have to know.
Well, Eric July did that with Isom. He didn't tell the whole story up front. You're still kind of grasping for it. So
Yeah, and
when are
I
you?
don't have
When?
that much real estate either. I have 24 pages.
Yeah, geez, he had a lot, and it was good. But I was like, there's so many questions I have with his. Yours is a little more refined down to a smaller group. So when's your next one issue coming out? When are we going to see the crowdfunding for that?
Tentatively, maybe early October. That's not going to be long.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually got a piece, like a layout, like a little bit of a sketch of the new character, because I can't introduce the whole team in 24 pages. Like you said, you met a little bit of the team, but you don't know that much about them. Imagine if I'd have had wedged 2 or 3 more people in there. I can't do that.
Now
So
it's almost overwhelming at times to do that.
yeah, I mean, you could maybe do a team shot in the end and like end it with the entire team and be like, ooh, who's that? Well, tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I got to tell you, that worked for me every week when I
Yep.
watched Batman as a kid. It sucked you right back in.
Hmm.
Jeez. So, yeah, this was your first comic,
Yep.
correct?
Yep. It's my first published work. I had well, it actually just launched today on Fund My Comic. I got a 6-page story in that. It's called Out of Obscurity. So, like, I guess we answered like a casting call, like a bunch of unpublished writers and artists and all this stuff, showcasing what you can do. But we took public domain characters that were obscure and brought them out of obscurity. So it's like a kind of a tie-in, kind of a pun with the book. So I chose Korak, son of Tarzan. So back in the day, Gold Key, I don't know if did it.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
DC did it. He had a son named Jackie, and he was like a teenager or whatever. He had his own book, Korak, son of Tarzan. Well, now in this, he's the old man. He's like old man Logan. He's it's the end of the line, and he's struggling to keep the jungle safe from like the commies.
But
So,
you did a great job with this because this is contemporary horror.
mhm.
Um, the artwork was stunning for the villain who we don't even really know much about at this
No,
point.
no. This
And
jaw's in the water right now.
yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, man, it's pretty cool. You've really done a good job with the suspense elements of it. It's hard to do a comic where a lot of the scenes are dark
Mm.
visually.
Yeah.
And I've seen people botch that. And I'm not going to criticize them online here, but
Right,
there are
right.
some folks that just don't get how to use the inks properly, I think, to kind of pull that out. But you did a really good job of it. I mean, it was phenomenal to read. It was a blast to read. Now, for folks that haven't bought into the Mythicals yet, can they still get it?
Yeah, yeah. Just you can go to my pinned tweet on Twitter, or you can just go to Fund My Comic, type in the Mythicals. It's right there.
All right, cool. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? Any other ways that people can connect with you?
You can find me on Facebook, H Wayne Desper, or South River Studios, Twitter. That's pretty much where I hang out. I'm not an artist, so I'm not on Instagram.
Okay. Well, I got a hold of you on Twitter, and what I admired too is that you responded. Uh,
Oh yeah, I'm very accessible, and I feel like that's kind of key to this as a creator. Like when you were young, I was young. Like if Peter David would have like answered one of my letters, I would have lost my mind. Like, but people were like contacting me like this is a good book, man. I can't wait for issue 2. And I'll respond, and if you have a question for me, I'll respond. I'm not gonna give anything away, but I'll talk to you. I'm accessible
that-
because I'm
I
not
think it's
pretentious.
important as a creator. I have to do that too, and there are times you deal with crazy people, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had a few. I'm just like, how can you write a woman when you're not a woman? And I just replied, well, what is a woman to you? And well, they didn't reply again. And I've gotten a couple messages like that, but I mean, dude, this is my book. Like, if you don't like it, don't read it.
it's that simple. I'm not gonna. You don't change the book because somebody's upset about it.
No.
So
I mean, maybe
what?
my editor, if they get upset, but at the end of the day, it's just a story, man. It's just a story.
It's a good story. So
Yeah,
let's call it what it is.
yeah.
Watcher, do you have any questions, or do we have any questions from folks online?
Well, first of all, we need to bring up the super chat from Kristen Del Rome, who says, "Shout out to my buddy Hojo from Credence Gold 13 on
Oh,
Gilded."
okay, okay, yeah. Didn't know
So,
that was the same person.
Nice.
Got it.
thank you very much for your donation. We really appreciate you. Let me see here. I haven't really seen any other numbers, but there are some comments. Pixel Trader here says, Comic-Con numbers are purely how much was forced on shops. You can't get real numbers unless you talk to shop owners, and they'll tell you that they have to eat hundreds of commons to get to get a variant. So,
Wow.
um,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's
Diamond is just pushing out stacks of stuff. I mean, I go to my local comic store.
as a game store owner that also has to deal with Diamond, I can tell you that yes, they are highly aggressive in their push for
Whoa.
everyone should. Hey, do you want to become a comic shop? You should take this.
Mm.
Ugh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I was at a comic shop 2 weeks ago, and when my first signing, and I was setting up before the store opened, and heard Diamond, and I was like, so how's Diamond treating you guys? And then did like that, and F Diamond, all three of them.
Yeah,
It's that should be on
Diamond's
a
got
t-shirt.
almost a monopoly on this too, which is a little
I
bit
guess
strange.
Lunar's creeping up or something. Image chose to go with them, so we'll see. But at the end is one really better than the other?
I don't know. Well, Watcher, do you have any questions you want to throw over to Hojo?
What was the most surprising part of this for you? The whole publishing, creative, everything process, the fundraising, all of it. Which part of it was the most fish out of water portion of this for you?
Oh, having to get out here and sell myself and talk to people. Like I don't.
Mm,
I would rather sit and shoot the shit or whatever. Just talk about a topic versus me. Like, mm. But I do what I got to do. I can go out here and chill. I'm. I could be a social chameleon. If you want to talk about music, I can. I just can't talk about cards. But coming out and having to and just seeing some of the grown men, some of them older than me, acting like my children. That's the most surprising part. But then in the end, it's the internet, so it's not that surprising. But it's different when it's like a behind a keyboard acting immature. But when I see them face to face, and I'm just like, really, man? All right, cool. That's cool. You do you. That's fine. As long as you buy my book, be what you want to be. But hey, man, it's been a joy, a treat, and probably the biggest surprise was launch night because I only had like a funding goal of 2,500, and I was like, well, that's gonna be hard. Maybe I'll get to 3,000. And like launch night, it was like 1,800, and I was just like,
yeah, man.
huh.
You touched something. You had some kind of right recipe that really connected with people.
I think it's
And
because I just paid attention. Some people come in there do the crowdfunding thing, especially in comics, which is my only area of like experience. They kind of half-ass it. They do a couple covers, a pinup, and or 16 of them, and show some boobage, and they're like, "Oh, give me like $10,000," and then when they don't do it, it just they flip out and start pointing fingers, except for the person in the mirror. Um, you got to put in the work, man. I did research. I watched this crowdfunding little excerpt or series on YouTube for it's about 6 parts of it. I watched it like 200 times. I literally, I was in the military, so I know how to dumb things down. I dumbed it down for myself, and it's like, this is what I need to do. I need to do this by then. I wanted to get 500 Twitter followers by X. I wanted to, it's a plan. I have a plan. That's all I'm saying. I have a plan, except for just give me money. It's not gonna work. Not now. Too many
Now,
people out here.
well, there's some guys who have been burned a little bit by the crowdfunding stuff over the years. So there's
Late books, man. I kept hearing late books, so I got to the point where I was like, you
yeah,
know what? Launch night, the book was pretty much about to be lettered. Um, it was done 2 weeks into the campaign. Done,
brilliant move, brilliant move.
and
People
that's
like
because
hearing that because they know when they buy the next one and buy into this one still
it's
that
it's also
they're going to get
security.
it.
Like it's people feel comfortable as a consumer, and if they like the story, they like the person. Because in the beginning, like I learned really fast. There's another surprise. It's not really so much a meritocracy at this level. It is you're selling yourself. They don't. Somebody told me nobody's really buying your book to buy it, to read it. They're buying you. So you have to be likable. Don't be a dick. You can be a dick, but you have to be subtle with it. You have to be surgical. You just can't be an asshole. Um, but yeah, that was a big shocker. And then so I was like, all right, well, I'll just adjust my fire. I'll sell me. But it happens to be a damn good looking book. Both of those covers are amazing. Like, and I specifically sought out those particular people because I paid attention. I watched. I looked at the entire community and said, all right, who's hot right now? What are these people like? Can they fit what I want to do? And the smartest person in the room is the one that realizes they're not and surrounds themselves with people smarter than them. That makes a good CEO. Unfortunately, this country doesn't really have that many CEOs that surround themselves with smarter people. They think
Not
they're the smartest
anymore.
people there.
But I could take a lesson from you on this because I got to tell you, yeah, there was no amount of sales for. I didn't watch the trailer for this until after I ordered it.
Oh,
The cover
nice.
alone grabbed me
Yeah,
because I was like, this is different. I don't know what's going on here, and I wanted to explore it. And to me, I just wanted to read a good story. and I think there's a lot of comics fans out there that are like that at this point. They're like, I'm tired of everybody shoving stuff at me. I just want to read something that I'll enjoy.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be long. It isn't going to take you an hour to read or something. It's not like, a graphic novel is different. That's an experience. It's like a movie. That's how it was put to me. Like that's how Ethan, I think, described it. His and all the CG books and all that stuff, the big stuff. They're big graphic novels. They're a movie. They're a blockbuster. You consume them, then you wait for the next one in the next year or the next 2 years. Well, this is like a big budget version of, I guess, television. You're going to keep getting it at regular intervals, and then we're going to take a break because after 13 issues, I have it planned on being done. I don't really want to touch it again. I don't want it to get stale because the ending it's quite nice. Not like the ending in the first issue, which is the twist. It's
Quite literally a twist.
Yeah. That's my Twilight Zone EC background right there. I love the Twilight Zone. It's at the end you just have to make everybody feel calm and then come in with Rod Serling like, no.
Yeah, I remember
the
those
thing
days.
Is not going to be okay.
Well, look, Joe, I want to thank you very much for coming on today.
Yeah, man.
The book, again, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's The Mythicals. Pick it up if you want a good comic book read. This is summer. This is the time to be reading comics and enjoying them. And this one harkens back to the heyday of comics back into the 90s. So thank you very much for coming on. And
thank you.
Make sure, folks, if you're watching this, click like and subscribe to the channel because we don't do comics rarely, but we're going to be doing more of them because this is a lot of fun. Thanks again, Hojo.